Hey folks, so I've got a bit of a personal one to tackle this time, a very important one, and this is actually my second time attempting to record this Kirblog topic for a particular reason. So this question comes from Alphafailed 2.0, who asks, how does internet fame affect the way you are motivated to make things like Tome or other animated works, or Kirblogs for that matter? So I found this as a really intriguing and important thing to talk about. I've kind of talked a little bit about this before, snippets of it in other Kirblogs. I'm going to give a little bit of a history lesson, some of which I've covered already in my very first Kirblog, which was how I got into animation. But there's a particular reason why I'm going to talk about my history with the stuff that I've done on the internet. So going actually even before I was on the internet, when I was a kid, I always wanted to produce original works. I wanted to make movies, I wanted to write books, I wanted to make games, I wanted to do a TV show, etc. All the stuff that I wanted to do basically as a kid was with my own original characters and my own original works and things that I had come up with, for really like well over a decade. Around like 2004 or so was when I first learned how to use Flash. And, by that point officially got interested in doing animation. The very first thing that I ever did on Newgrounds at the time, this would have been the summer of 2004 again, was it was an anime-style opening sequence to this webcomic that I was a really big fan of at the time. It's called The Rogues Gallery by Alan Sullivan, if you guys remember that series. It wasn't necessarily like the stuff that I had done, that I was known for later. It was something that I didn't own, but it was something that I was passionate about, and it was something that was kind of on a smaller scale, like myself. And I submitted that and it got blammed, and I was upset by it, and then I tried a couple other things, and the first few things on Newgrounds I submitted that got any sort of attention, and I use that word with major quotation marks around it, was a Sprite cartoon called Mega Man vs. Plunger Man, and then another thing called Inuyasha in a Nutshell. One of which was a video game parody, and the other one was an anime parody in the style of something that somebody else had done that was way more successful at the time. So that was kind of a signification of, this is the stuff that gets, past the blaming point on Newgrounds and makes it into the portal. Okay, I get that. But I didn't let it necessarily deter me. And after that, I started working on the first big project that I ever got known for on Newgrounds, which was TV Tome Adventures, the kind of original incarnation of Tome. So I was doing that for a long time. Did that for maybe about 3 years or so, from 2004 to 2007 or so, I think. And that was the big thing that I was doing at the time. Wasn't getting a whole lot of attention though. It had its viewership and it had a fan base that I appreciated having. But it wasn't really getting my name out there, and at the time that wasn't even an issue to me. I was just telling a story, and I was making something that I cared about, and no less with original characters and an original story that I'd come up with. Obviously, it was with sprites, and it was using copywritten music and everything, but that was mainly just because of a limitation of skill, not because I think this is going to make it more successful. It was just out of necessity at the time. But then after that, in 2006, I, on a whim, decided to create Parody Rangers. And I remember at the time that I was first working on it, I had this mentality of, nobody else has done a Power Rangers parody on Newgrounds before. The only other thing that had been like that on the internet before was the Mighty Mush and Emo Rangers, which was live action. So I thought, there's no other market for this. I won't have any competition if I do this. So I did it, and that was kind of my first big mistake. That, along with having, I think, featuring Ego Raptor in the description of it, which was like, yeah, great, good. So that was kind of my driving point for that. And then ultimately, I decided to stop doing TTA. I ended it on the third season, which disappointed a lot of people because I was supposed to do a fourth season that I was teasing about and everything and blah blah blah. And I just kind of focused more of my effort into Parody Rangers because it was more successful, and not to mention also I had even won some prizes for it. They had like monthly prizes where you would get I think $250 or something for like the top rated movie submitted to the portal that week, and then suddenly that changed the entire equation for me. So all of a sudden, popularity and to a lesser extent, money was becoming, a benefactor. It was becoming a huge driving point as to why I was doing what I was doing. So I continued producing Parody Rangers, and I grew to love the characters, and it was something that I did genuinely care about. And then over the summer of 2007, right after I finished high school, and some people know this from the origin of the Nintendo collab, Kirblog, that I did a while back. I think that was another one of my first ones. I wrote the first Nintendo parody, and it was my first video game parody since doing Mega Man and Plunger Man like years before that. So I did that, and I later in college decided to do it as a collab, and worked with a bunch of other animator friends of mine at the time on it, and I was doing the Parody Rangers movie at the time too. But then when I did the Nintendo collabs and it was getting into millions of views, and we had a budget to split money between everybody, suddenly it was an even further. An even further driving point that if I do video game parodies, I'll really get popular, and I'll really be able to make money off of doing this. And that was a mistake. I am 100% willing to admit that being driven to do stuff like that is not a good thing at all. And the fact of the matter was, it also wasn't even what I wanted to do really in the first place. It's it wasn't what I set out to do, but it just ended up that way. And then I remember one year at San Diego Comic-Con, I went to this would have been back like 2008 or 2009. I was talking with this animator from the community that I was kind of in at the time, Ryan Miller. You might know him as Artil. He was kind of a championer of down with the parodies and the unoriginal works. And rah, 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 original stuff. Like, everybody's got to do original stuff. And, at the time, I was fighting on the opposite end of no, Newgrounds is freedom for all things animation, and we can do whatever we want. But he and I got to talking that year because I wanted to kind of pick his brain on why do you feel this way? And I was showing him my original stuff. I had a portfolio with me at the time with the balancing act characters and some other stuff that I had worked on previously. And through having that conversation with him now, it's funny because now I am on his side. Now I think that the internet could stand to have a lot more original stuff on it, by a long shot. So when I kind of realized, what I was doing was for the wrong reasons, and it wasn't what I wanted to do in the first place, and I realized that all of it was just basically a big distraction, led by, fame and fortune, I guess you could say. I kind of needed to give myself a swift kick in the ass over it. And I was like, no, this isn't what I want to do. I need to focus on what it is that's really important to me. And so after that point, I finished the Nintendo collab, I finished the Parody Rangers movie, and the last, big thing that I did after that, which was something that was personally meaningful to me, was Mario RPG Waltz of the Forest. And after that, I decided that it's time for me to focus on the stuff that I do really care about, which is original content. And that's when I decided to do Tome. Obviously, before that, I also had to do my thesis film, which was Balancing Act for college, which is also something that I want to revisit down the line. But Tome was the first big project that I wanted to jump into doing after I finished college. And it was something that I knew going into it. It's this is going to be an uphill battle because the people that follow my work know me for parodies. And getting people to give a shit about your original work on the internet is not easy. It is an uphill battle. But I knew that going into it, and now I'm so incredibly proud of Tome, and that it's really in my eyes, no, it doesn't have millions of views or anything like the Nintendo collabs or Brawl Taunts or whatever, but in my eyes, it is a million times more successful than any of the other stuff that I did before that. Because it's better, for one thing. It has all the experience that I've gathered up for all these years, poured into it, everything that I've learned and taken away from working on those original things. Because I still treated them like they were exercises, Parody Rangers and all that. So I learned from my mistakes, as it were, and applied them into something that I thought was on a much bigger scale. And I think that having the mentality of knowing that, this is not going to so easily become popular. It's not going to so easily become, successful monetarily. I think that owning that from the beginning has led it to be as successful as it is now. proven, if anything, by the crowdfunding campaign, which again, I'm always so exuberantly appreciative of everybody to helping with. So to get back to the actual question, it's how has internet fame affected the way that I'm motivated? What I've tried to do is own the fact that it can't be a motivator. Fame and fortune can't be a motivator for you if you really want to succeed. The truth of the matter is, it has been for many people, and they have succeeded off of it for sure. But I think that the people who are truly successful, and far more than any of those people that don't, people who aren't pandering, people who are just purely making something because it's what they're passionate about, and they're trying to do new things and break new ground and just do something that is truly with their own kind of personal voice to it. Those are the people that I think really. And it takes a long time. It takes a lot of dedication and skill and honing one's craft and patience. But I think that those are the people that are wildly more successful than anybody, and they're deserving of the popularity and the money that they make. The fame and fortune that they garner is more deserving. And that's kind of what I learned. I learned that by just really bunkering down and doing what it is that I care about and have always cared about from the beginning, really, from when I was a little kid and first became an artist, that just focusing on the stuff that's important like that is really what is going to get me places in life. And now that I'm here, too, now that I've moved, that really has to be the case, and that really has to show, in order for me to succeed out here. Because if I want to get a job in the industry, I can't be like, yeah, look at my Power Rangers cartoon or whatever, or my Nintendo parody where they swear and there's boobies or what. It's like you can't do that. Like that's kiddie stuff. Like in reality, it's like that's and that's what I took away from that entire era of my life. And to go back to a previous point too, so about Kirblogs, this is to be real. Like, yes, I do some of these twice a week in order to make income because they are monetized. But like previously, I recorded this and it was like 20 minutes long, and I also felt that I was rambling too much. And what's more important to me is the point that I'm making, which is why this is the second time I'm recording it in order to better condense what it is that I'm trying to say about the topic at hand, and not just for the sake of stretching it out to 20 minutes so I can make the most amount of money off of the ad revenue or whatever. That's what I'm trying to do in terms of like these Kirblogs are, even though at their base they're to produce content for me to be able to make some income on the side, they're also me trying to honestly talk about things that are important and that things that people want to hear, and to directly interact with the people who care about what it is that I do. And in cases like this, to make a point that I think is important and worth hearing, And I appreciate that people listen to me go on and on for 15 to 20 minutes about shit like this, twice a week or whatever. I really do. So, and that's also, again, to prove a sort of point. By not having popularity or making money as the driving force behind what it is that I do, I find that what it is that I do becomes a lot more successful and personally fulfilling, and something that I can, learn even more from, as opposed to making mistakes that make me look like a jackass, So that's kind of the basic point that I wanted to go with. And I'm curious. I'm going to ask for something a little different in this case. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comments. But in particular, if any of my fellow content creation friends, both animation and video editing, review, whatever, people like that, if you want to leave comments in here, tell me your story. Surmise to me how it is that internet fame and fortune, really kind of impacted you, and if it did or if it not, or I'm curious to hear your stories. And also to everybody, if you have ideas for future Kirblog topics, let me know as usual. Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, or the comments below. Let me know. And I guess just I thank you again for watching and listening, and I hope that I have taken away something from those experiences in that period of my life, and that I've learned to produce better content and something that is more meaningful with the right motivation. And I hope that I'm making things that you care about and that you like and that speak to you, and that are, bottom line, just entertaining. So, yeah, thanks again for listening, and have a great one.